Hello, Jenny
Hey,
Raynsford.
hello, David. Wait a minute.
Happy New Year, or happy week after New Year. 2 weeks after New Year.
What? We could get away with just saying Happy New Year solidly for the next three episodes in the hope that someone will notice, or someone will even
We're
look.
thinking of Chinese New Year. That's how, or
We're
Russian New
just
Year.
going through.
Russian New Year and then Chinese New Year. I believe because they aren't the Russians on something like the Gregorian calendar, and the Chinese, I had no idea what calendar they've got.
We're on the
Yeah, who
Gregorian
knows?
calendar. Maybe they're on the Roman calendar.
Maybe they're on they certainly have New Year about 12 days later for some reason traditionally.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on that. I'm going to Google just in
I'm
case.
pretty sure
I've,
on that it means that this is most likely factually incorrect.
I'm doing Russian New Year different.
Is
Most
it Russian
Russians
Orthodox?
keep their New Year trees up until after New Year. No, that's not. Well, I'll say Russia has 2 New Years. Do Russians have 2 New Years? 2 New Years, yeah, in Russia. Russia's old New Year is celebrated on the 14th of January, according to the Julian or Orthodox calendar.
Julian calendar, that's it.
Julian? Who's Julian? And why? Is it Julius Caesar? Did he change it? The Julian?
It's gonna be the Roman calendar, isn't it? Yeah, that's it.
There aren't many Julians because in my head a Julian is slightly a Hugh Grant type character. So like a Julian New Year would be a pheasant and I don't know port rounder.
Peasants and
Trying to think what.
and
I mean,
and
no wonder
maybe
they want two.
maybe some poetry. Maybe
Maybe yeah, it would be poetry of thanks. Yeah,
like a bit
I
of
mean,
it.
that sounds
Julian's a
quite
bit
sweet.
of a dandy, if we're going to be honest.
Do you know that's my wrestling name?
Of course it is. What? What do you mean your wrestling name?
Well, when
You know,
a couple of years back.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
A couple of years back, Briggsy and I went to watch female wrestling in East London,
Was that your suggestion?
and it was my present to her because she used to love wrestling. She still loves. I love that you find that so funny. She still loves The Rock, like, well, more than me. Yeah. So we went to see female wrestling. I think I probably mentioned it when we went, but some episode. And it was fun, but you know when you think, have you ever seen something you thought you should have asked me to be scriptwriter on this because you were missing out on like thousands of like puns. When you hear the names, you're like, why are you not using these phrases? Why there's so much comedy gold they could have had. But then we thought about what our nicknames would be, and I always thought I'd be a slightly evil one called the Dandy, who'd be sauntering in, and you know I'd hit them with a rowing oar or something along those lines. That I thought that would be a
You
character
made
I'd quite like to play.
really loose shirt with pretty much every
Yes,
button
yeah.
undone, apart from one.
Yeah, I'd be reciting poetry, and it'd be a great character, the Dandy. I mean, I don't know how I'd ever win a fight. That would be the challenge. I'd do it by cheating, by poisoning with cups of tea, or
No,
those
a
kind of
dandy,
storylines.
a dandy is born into privilege, so a dandy would essentially get other people to do it for them, wouldn't they? You see those? So it's like Vince McMahon, isn't it? You know, he very rarely did he have to like wrestle. Eventually, he did it, you know, in the end and everything. But he would, you know, it's like when they have those managers, like managers in wrestling who do it. You could see Julian the Dandy as a manager, essentially, just getting other
Yeah.
people to fight fights, tricking people, that kind of stuff. What is that
Well,
kind
maybe
of guy?
that's my date. Maybe that's my day to launch. Vince, if you're listening, the 14th of January, time for the Dandy. Imagine this guy.
Time for the Dandy. Oh, do you know what? I think we launched the Dandy at the National Running Show. He won't have any relevance to anything, but I think that is the time.
Are we doing that by I just come on and body slam you? Or body slam the first guest?
No one.
Scott Jurek's the first guest.
No one will expect that. No one will expect. Basically, we open up, we introduce ourselves as Bad Boy Running, and then it kind of descends into hitting each other with chair. People are like, "Oh, is this like Vic and Bob style humour, or is this WWE?" It's very difficult to tell.
So I've seen something like that where the only time I've seen Stuart Lee, and I unfortunately had tickets to him earlier last year, couldn't go to, but we went to see him, and it was in his experimental phase before he did his stand-up comedy.
When is he not in his experimental phase? When is he coming out of his experimental phase?
Well, I think you'll understand why this is slightly different to those phases. So he had a period when he was almost out of the public eye a little bit before he got back on his BBC shows and doing his big tours. And we went to see him, and this Canadian wrestler with a wrestling mask came on called Baconface. And it turned out that was the entire act. And it was dreadful. And after about 30 seconds, we were chatting going, is this Stuart Lee or is this the warm-up guy? Because this is really weird. And I get that, when there's two little bits of humour and you're like, And then they Stuart Lee the whole, we're now going to talk about how awful this is and try and flog that as if it then will become funny. And it was just, oh God. Thankfully, it never went on tour, Baconface. I don't know if it was with a one night of Baconface.
One night of Baconface, and you had to experience it.
Yes. But we've got so much to report on that's been happening.
A lot has happened, hasn't it? Mainly,
I mean,
we've got scandals, we've got dramas, we've got everything's happened.
We've got endings and new beginnings. Almost a beautiful stuff. Well, I can't be bothered to talk about New Year. I had a lovely time. We took laser games, eight laser guns to the countryside, which when you're drunk and in the dark are the funnest thing you can do. Don't think I need to say more about that for New Year. Brilliant. Anything to report on your end, Christmas, New Year?
Worked. It feels like we've already talked. Have we already talked about this? I worked so hard on.
You've never said that.
No. I'm sure we have talked about this, but in case we haven't, we
have done an intro to this already, where we were then joined by Jim Walmsley. We were like, "Way, Jim!" after about 10 minutes. So
it happens a lot.
It does.
All right. The fact that I can't think of anything says everything you need to know about Christmas and New Year. Christmas, I fell asleep all day, which I think I've already talked about because we did the launch of the book on Christmas Eve, and I was absolutely knackered on Christmas Day, so I fell asleep for like 3 hours and missed most of everything. And then New Year's was just New Year's when you have a family, when you have kids, pretty uneventful. So much so that you're quite surprised when it hits midnight because someone rings you. Do you know what I've been watching, which has been really good? And this is probably, if I were to say this is my New Year, this is pretty much my New Year, dedicated to watching The Shrink Next Door. Have you heard about it? It's actually this is a TV recommendation, but it's also a podcast. Apparently, it was based on a podcast, which is based on a story, and it stars Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd in what is probably I think these are kind of Emmy award-winning roles that they've done, especially Paul Rudd, and basically
comedy.
It's kind of a comedy drama, but it's the thing that makes it's a true story, and it's basically about how this psychiatrist basically took over the life of this other guy for like 27 years and made him shut his family out, his only sister, ended up living in his house in the Hamptons
as an experiment.
No, not an experiment. No, just slowly taken over his life, and he did it for like 27 years and stuff. It's a true story of Marty Markovich, and it's absolutely horrific. And when you slowly see something happening, and you're like, I don't want to watch any more episodes because you can see his life just being taken over and him just not doing anything about it. And it's just
which one's the
really
baddie?
Good.
Is so Will Ferrell the?
Paul Rudd's the baddie.
Paul Rudd's the baddie, but he's so pretty.
I know. It's brilliant. They are both so good in it. And it's got Catherine Hahn as well. It's really, really good. It's really good. And it's got some funny bits in it. And it's just horrific for the fact it's a true story. So we were watching that. We were pretty much thought, oh, let's watch that. And let's get this done. And so we watched that on New Year's Eve. So not a particularly exciting thing, but a good. That's an Apple TV recommendation for you.
Apple TV.
Yeah,
Wow.
they do have some things on there.
I've
One thing
never
comes
heard
along
a single
every
thing
6 months.
recommended from there.
Morning show's good. Morning show on there is
Do you
really
have
good.
to do you have to download and install an update every time you log on?
No, but if you two ever release a documentary, it automatically uploads to it and plays.
Well, I guess if we're doing TV recommendations, a bit late to the show, but we've fired all the way through
You're not
doing
going
our
to suggest
series.
Dragon's Den, are you? You're not going to suggest Dragon's Den.
No, Succession.
There's a guy. Oh, Succession. I was going to say there's a guy that looks just like you in the opening sequence.
What?
Of Dragon's Den.
What?
I know.
How could that be?
It couldn't possibly be you because the other guy in the thing's wearing a shirt, so there's no fucking way. Wearing a collar, so it's no way.
And also that person puts their head in their hands in the opening sequence.
You put your head in your hands all the time on this. Well, you should. You should do.
I should do. Yes.
What?
Yes.
Is that?
I don't know what can be said. I've not read my contract. Probably nothing. So there are rumours abound that someone looking very much like me, as Jody has mentioned, is in the very first clips and the promos of all the Dragon's Dens. Putting my head into my hands. If you don't know what Dragon's Den is, do-badders, in America it's called Shark Tank, and it's got a similar name. So if you think of a place where there are investors and there are people putting their head into their hands in shame.
Angel's Lap it should be called, shouldn't it? Angel's Lap or something like that.
Angel's Lap. Ooh, that's quite... yeah, beg me for money. Well, if these rumours were to be true, apparently it's not the first half of the season. So we're looking at least week 8 onwards. If these rumours of this person who looks... If this person who looks like me, I asked this person who looks like me, my shameful twin, and he said second half of the season, and we'll get that shameful twin on to talk about it. Probably when we know the date.
Will be Julian come on to talk about it?
Yes, the dandy will come on.
The alter ego.
And you'll be like, I didn't pay for the dandy. Oh God, I want Stuart Lee. And I guess the other recommendation we put out there that probably most people have seen by now, have heard by now, Don't Look Up.
Oh yeah, what did you think of that?
Loved it. You sound that suggests
no.
that...
I think it's funny. It's funny how before watching it, how divisive it is. Like some people say it's the greatest satire they've ever watched. It seems to be really, really polarised. Greatest satire they've ever watched, or switch it off after 15 minutes, lazy, obvious, etc., etc. Which I would say broadly corresponds with the political views that they hold as well.
Oh, really? So you think people that are... Because, yeah, I mean, they've done it. If you've not watched it, do-badders, watch it. It's definitely worth watching. Netflix have clearly doubled down on we're going all out for trying to get films that you would normally go to cinema to see. Yeah. So yeah, it's got an amazing stellar cast in Meryl Streep. It's got Jennifer Lawrence, DiCaprio. It's very well written.
Best,
and they've done a South Park.
One of the funniest lines in that is when Jennifer Lawrence, because Jennifer Lawrence has a new haircut in that, and it gets called Boy with a Dragon Tattoo. That is the funniest line. The funniest line in that film.
But I thought interesting then, is it because if you haven't seen the film, they're very good in that they write about an impending comet and the world's reaction to what looks like the end of the world. And it uses that to parody what's happening around us. What I think is quite interesting about it is I wasn't sure whether they were using it to parody COVID or the Trump rally or the QAnon, and actually it's not that clear. But it's great in that, like South Park, they've realised you can't take the piss out of something by taking the piss out of the thing, because irony doesn't work for that, because people just don't get it. Like it's shown that irony doesn't work when they've done it in Spitting Image, when they've done it with things like the Day-to-Day. People being parodied don't see themselves as being parodied and just see it as reinforcing their view. Whereas this is it's a metaphor, really, isn't it? So interesting that they thought it was. Do you think they realised it was a direct attack on their response?
I think so. Yeah, because I mean, it's not particularly subtle. It is a direct attack on kind of Trump, sort of Trump politics. But also, it's all about denial, is it? I think for me, it felt like
happiness,
a metaphor.
A need for short-term happiness.
Well, it's the thing is, how would the world? I mean, it works on a few levels. I mean, it is really obvious in the fact it is attacking Trump and Trump supporters and stuff like that. But it also, if you keep watching it, it does show the Trump supporters have been hoodwinked. I mean, they wouldn't like to think that they've been hoodwinked, but it doesn't put them as the guilty party. It puts the ruling elite as the guilty party. But I think the thing about it does. Well, the cool rich, as he calls it, the cool rich and the working class, and the working class keep the cool rich in, so we can make sure the liberals stay out. That's what he says, isn't it? But the whole thing is just it's a kind of a parody on not just dealing with reality and dealing with the idea of facts, also about how do we as a society respond to serious information, and it's not quite having an attack at dumbing down. I think it's something a bit more nuanced than that. It's talking about the fact that when someone comes on a TV show, in order for them to get the most amount of coverage, they don't go on the news. They go on essentially what is a morning chat show, because that's going to reach more people. And when they do it, they have to then fit, and then all the focus is on not what the message is, it's how they look and whether they're hot, and and everything getting derailed over the fact that no one's really taking it wrong. I think the actual the kind of the metaphor is it's about climate change, isn't it? That's the fundamental thing it's about. It's about climate scientists and people, no one listening to them and no one actually paying attention to what they're saying and not taking it seriously, and then arguing the science, and then everyone realising the science is right, and the fact that's essentially what it is. Although it did happen, it has come out about the same time that NASA has launched its first rocket to try and test whether it can deal with a meteor. So it's a perfect bit of timing from their perspective as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's very good in that it does attack in a lot of ways. So it attacks the politicians, and the reality of politics is you are thinking about your next election in every decision, which isn't great for long-term assessment and the media. And the media, the need to always make things happy, to make people feel good about things, that instant hit of dopamine. Yeah, it's really. I thought it was great. And if you're someone who didn't watch it because you thought it was obvious and lazy and sloppy, I'd say go back and actually you'll realise that it's punching in all directions. But also, it's fine to be punched at sometimes. It's fine to be joked at, isn't it?
I mean, the thing is, it attacks everyone, including us. And it's true, like we're guilty as well. But if that really upsets you, the fact you're having your finger pointed at you and that you're guilty of this as well, then you're very weak-skinned, and the world is not for you.
And you're right. It is more about climate change, isn't it? Because that is the only thing that's happening at the moment that is globally world stuff.
If they and that again, this is a side effect of it. If they did a thing about climate change, it would be criticised immediately by one half, and it wouldn't even be watched. So this at least gets some people watching something, which and they can use make it allegorical. But the thing is, if you look at Adam McKay's previous films that he's done, Big Short and Vice, which all in the same style.
It's that guy. Yeah. Gotcha.
And you could tell from the style, like straight away when it started, I was like, oh god, it looks like The Big Short straight away. But if you watch those films are true. Like the things that happen in those films are true, and those really happened. And I imagine someone like Adam McKay, you create a film like that, and you think with something like The Big Short, And this is really interesting because I read the book by Michael Lewis, The Big Short, over when I was away in Lanzarote. And what happened with that is like such an incredible scandal, but no one is interested. No one is interested in prosecuting. No one is interested. Like, there are scandals happening already. These things are happening already, and just no one's interested in it. It's just not.
And the same because he did the film about Dick Cheney and the Gulf War and how I mean, and that's exactly the same where he's pretty much doing. He'd be a fascinating interviewee to understand how he feels about the reception of his films, because he's done pretty much everything he can to try and highlight these issues where he's getting big term actors who are getting really high accolades for their acting, where he lays it out straight. These people went to war to line their pockets. This person and again, nothing happens. And so I wonder whether I wonder if this film is his response to what's happened previously, and whether he finds it desperately depressing that he's doing everything he can and still nothing happens. Well, that I'm going to squeeze in. I've got two stories from before Christmas that because we had a lot of times when we couldn't. So I went to 2 movie premieres before Christmas.
Oh, did you?
Which was quite, yeah. One of which I feel duty bound. One of which I think is just quite interesting from understanding how the film industry works now. So the first one was Ewan Thomas's premiere for the running. He did a documentary about doing his first 100-miler, which I thought you were. Maybe I shouldn't out you on the podcast, but it's fun to talk about. You weren't that impressed with from the outset of the documentary as like runner runs a distance documentary.
No,
a lot of people.
But that's not that specific Ewan Thomas. I genuinely don't think that's a very interesting idea for a documentary anyway. Like there's enough stuff on Amazon of someone tries to run something that we know that they already can run and will probably finish it, where there's no real sort of dramatic tension in it as well. There's enough. That's me not liking a general genre of documentaries, which are generally running documentaries.
Yeah. I mean, this was what I liked about the evening. So the running show put it on in a Pizza Express in London, where they had a big screen. They did a bit of a Q&A, and so Mike Seaman, who's been on the podcast a couple of times, we love. He took a beating, man. We've been in a situation where someone can tell a joke about it, and it's fine. So I, for example, could tell a joke about you and you about me, and that's just our interaction. But then if someone else who doesn't know us but feels like they know us, there are some jokes that if they said the same joke would be like, what? You're just insulting me because you don't know me well enough to be able to get away with that.
I have no idea who you are. That's the other
thing. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that happens from time to time with the podcast, just because people feel like they know us.
We're massively
we
famous,
know that,
aren't we? We're massively famous, and so.
But we know that happens.
Yeah.
So when we get insulted publicly, we're like, okay, yeah, I guess that's just part of it. But so I like this documentary mainly because, well, 2 reasons. One, Susie Chan keeps on trying to get him to train, and he doesn't.
Oh, really?
Because he just hates long distance running. So the first half of the film is about him not doing any training, which I think is that never happens, right?
That is why if they'd have led with that, that's the problem. Because he's an Olympic athlete, you think, the assumption is training to him is just we know how to switch it on. We could do a Phelps. We know how to switch it on. When we need to, bang, we can do it.
But I think he can if he wants to, and he doesn't mind doing that stuff. But he enjoyed his training. I forgot how good he was. He was world champion, silver medalist. In my head, like Roger Black was always the number one. He was the number two. And Roger Black was only really number two because he wasn't even the Michael Johnson era. But actually, no, it's Ewan Thomas who's got the record, the British record, I think still. Who his second place is to Michael Johnson, which that's like coming second to Usain Bolt, and he was world champion as well. Like, wow, actually, he was top. But he clearly just hates long distance running. He doesn't get it. It wouldn't surprise me if he chose 400 meters because he couldn't be fucked with 800 meters and wasn't fast enough for 200 meters. But so that's the first half of the documentary. Then the second half of the documentary,
so wait,
Mike
what kind of stuff does she do to try and cajole him? So is he just hit and just walking in every couple of minutes going, come on, you're going to do some training? And he's going, ah.
Well, unfortunately, it coincides with COVID, so suddenly she can no longer be there to drag him out, and so it's more done on faith, and it's just very obvious that he's not doing it.
Very realistic.
Yeah. So I like that aspect of it. And then Mike goes out to be his pacer for the first half, or maybe Mike's doing the whole thing. I think Mike's doing the whole thing, and he's done 100-mile around his house before, which to me is harder than doing a proper 100-miler, depending how you approach it. Not that I've done one, but so Mike then gets heat stroke and has to bail after about 30 miles.
Oh, no.
And so from then on in the premiere, Ewan's just taking the piss out of Mike, and Mike's obviously feels that was a monkey on Mike's back, I think, not having completed it, and not at that stage having completed an official 100-miler. So then for the rest of the evening, every joke from anyone was just referring to Mike, and it was like, do you know him well enough to be making this joke? And poor Mike, look, Mike's lovely today. He just likes the attention. But there was an element, I think, of being like, really, guys, come on now, stop beating me up here. So I just thought that was fun. But yeah, the running show now have a running. I can't say the running channel because the running channel is a channel on YouTube, but it looks like they're now going into making more documentaries about long distance running, which hopefully is a good thing. I mean, can only be a good thing, right? The more there are out there, the more stories. So that is something to keep your eyes peeled for. And knowing the way Ali is, there's got to be an Ali documentary fairly soon, you'd think.
Yeah, got to be.
So that was one premiere. You got an invite as well. You should have come. Free pizza.
Yeah, but it was like Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It was Monday, with only a few days' notice. And I mean that sounds like a terrible excuse, but there was a reason.
Yeah, And it was just before Christmas. But I also went to a film premiere that was a film, and. So you did premieres before, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
So this is the interesting thing now when Netflix does movies, but Netflix now also do screenings for films because they still want to be in the awards cycle. And so what I wasn't fully aware of, but makes sense, is that part of that award cycle is they invite people from BAFTA to watch the premiere where they'll then butter them up and make sure they have a lovely time.
Oh yeah. I mean that is exactly what it's about. That's exactly what all of the awards thing about. They have in order to be eligible for any of the film awards, you have to put on a limited theatrical run, which is why you sometimes see those ridiculous headlines. They'll say so and so's latest movie only made £8 at the cinema, or something like that, and it's because they've had to do a limited theatrical run, which they've probably lost money on in a bunch, about I think it's a certain number of cinemas. In order to be eligible to be able to do that, and everyone has to do that, and so sometimes you've got a load of cash like Netflix. You can do a big premiere, and premiere is also really good because they generate a lot of attention and everything that goes with it, and you can get stars there, and stars won't come to like a anything else really, unless it's a kind of a premiere.
Yeah, press junket.
But
yeah.
Oh yeah, but absolutely, it's it's all around bribery and everything else around. I mean, you wouldn't say that to people at BAFTA because they go, oh no, it's not like that at all. It's just like, but it is, isn't it? It's just constantly loading shit upon that, and that's exactly what it's about.
So I went to this one. My friend Jeff Baggs, who I've mentioned, I'm sure, in the past, who we used to be captain of the darts team together. He's in an investment club. We used to work student union bar, the same till together, and he's a member of BAFTA because he has been heavily involved in visual effects and the development of the technologies behind that. So now he gets invited to these things, and every now and then he says, Dave, do you want to come along? So we went to see, I can't remember the name of the film. It's not a good sign, is it? Have you heard about the Black Western?
The Black Western?
Yes.
Is that the name of the film, or are you describing the film?
The Harder They Fall.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that got Idris Elba in it?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So, that was the film. I thought, interestingly, it was, and I can't say too much here because I don't actually. I've just said Bags, so they don't know who it is. So I saw the film. I thought I loved it. This is brilliant. It was basically all black.
How much
cast,
you had to drink?
How
much you had to drink by that thing? Because normally the drinks come first. A lot of drinks come first.
Well, I bought Jeff a few drinks to start with because I thought he's got me a nice little gig here. Then we had halfway through the film. I then went out because there was a free bar and there was no barman, so I then just served myself and then served everyone in the bar as well, which I didn't realise included the main star. So yeah, I just because I could, when you're watching a film and you don't twig, oh, that person's that person. So I went around the room and said, anyone else want a beer? So yeah, I'd had a fair few, but if you imagine MTV style director who I think came from advertising, cross Tarantino style film where it's all a black western, just very cool. I came out of it thinking, yeah, that's brilliant. Jeff came out of it, so Bags, whoops. Bags was like, I was like 5 out of 5, yeah, easy. For him, 2 out of 5. You say some of the cinematography was, not great. It was clunky, the way, and all these things that I just didn't care about as a viewer. He obviously,
yeah.
And that's the thing. That's what I wasn't sure about. Then when you see someone win awards, what are they actually winning it for? Because it isn't just the most popular film, but it made me realise that actually they must think they've got a good chance of winning awards with this to go to that effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then from a technical point of view, it seems like it's not very good technically. And actually that would, for Bags, he's not going to vote well for that film.
I don't know. The thing is with awards is that as much as they say that, there is like a judging process and things like that, but the BAFTAs it's got bigger. But remember, it used to be quite small compared with like the Oscars and the Golden Globes. I mean, it was very much down the pecking order, and it used to be the case.
They moved
basically,
it, didn't they?
Yeah, but it used to be the case of whoever we could get over basically wins the award. So if you'd had like Brad Pitt over, like you'd be like, oh, I take it Brad Pitt's winning an award then because there are literally no other stars here.
Oh, when they do the like cut to and the nominees are empty seat, person, and the winner is.
I don't know.
But they also...
That's the thing I generally found about the whole working in the film industry. I was kind of a bit of an out because I used to do some reviews of films, and I was a bit of an outlier in the sense that when I watched the film, I watched it to see whether it was actually enjoyable or not, or entertaining, and
yeah,
and which is a bit of a you know, in movie circles, a bit of a Paul Ross approach to reviewing movies. Whether you'd actually want to watch the damn thing again.
He's the Mike Bushell of TV film critics.
The Mike Bushell, yeah. And so everyone, you know, they'd watch a film, and you know, it would be slated because it was, you know, too populist or something, or things weren't things. But if, you know, and to be fair, like, reviewers get it wrong all the time. Like, you know, the stuff that they say is good or bad, and then they would prefer things like fucking kitchen sink dramas and stuff like that. And you know, I watched, like, Mike Leigh. You know, he's created some films in the past, of course, that have, you know, have been on a social mission and stuff like that. But if you've ever watched any of his films, fucking hell. Like, yeah, I don't like, but critics love it. Like, oh, it's an exploration of someone's character.
It's
and,
gritty,
and a family
it's
and crisis
earthy.
and stuff like that. You're like, but you don't want to fucking watch the thing again, do you? It's not. It's a slog to get through it. It's not entertainment, and it's actually even worse interviewing him as well, because he's a slog to have to speak to. So, but it used to be. I know exactly what you mean. You come out of it with some of the premieres and stuff, with some of the screens. You come out, and you go, "That was great. That was really, really good." And then you speak to, like, you know, people who work in the film industry and things like that, and they'd be like, "Oh, you know," and they pick it apart in ways, and you're like, I don't think any of that's relevant.
Does it matter? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, the thing is, there's always those elements, isn't it, behind it, where something feels different, and you know, like, for example, there's what was the film? It was Bohemian Rhapsody. There's supposed to be some kind of edit in Bohemian Rhapsody, which is the worst piece of editing ever. It's the worst piece of editing, and even the editor has come and said, "I am absolutely embarrassed about how that edit works," or something like that. And literally no one knows about it until someone pointed it out. And it's that kind of thing, you know. It didn't harm the value of the film. It didn't harm anything. It's just it's bullshit stuff that actually doesn't matter to anyone outside the industry.
But then, do you think it's intentional though? Because, for example, my dad was a chef for many, 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 many years, well, decades really, and he says he doesn't enjoy fine dining because all he does is pick up on things, because he was particularly because he started as a cook in a hospital, then cook in the army, then went up, and so by the end he was managing cooks. So all he was trained to do was to go out and pick up on mistakes. Yeah. And so it's not that he's being nitpicky intentionally; it's that that's just how he's now trained. And so that's the thing. It might be that they can't not see these things, and it's almost deafening to them. Yeah, how much it screams at them, and that's what I couldn't tell.
It's true, actually. It's part of the reason why I stopped doing film and TV and home entertainment and stuff like that, was because actually I loved film and I loved all of that, and I still do, but I really loved it, and all of a sudden you're looking at it in a way, yeah, you're doing things like you're having to review a lot of stuff that you don't really like or you wouldn't normally watch and stuff like that. And then you were having to go to premieres, and they sounded great, and actually generally they're boring as anything. And it kind of killed it.
Depends if you're serving yourself beer.
Do you know what? It does tend to be the smaller ones for like independent films, like where, you know, they have to work a little bit harder to kind of you know, have the bar and everything, and you know, they're more likely to get some proper stars along, and it's a bit more intimate and it's a bit more fun, and you know, and it's at BAFTA or it's at another screening room somewhere in London or whatever like that. Those are the ones that are actually probably a bit more fun and interesting, as opposed to ones that like Odeon, Leicester Square and stuff, where you're with like loads of other people. There's red carpet and stuff, but you know, you're with loads of other people and you're waiting around for hours for fucking Tom Cruise to bloody sign things or you know, or whatever. But it is good. So were there any stars then in the screening itself? Did you meet anyone?
Well, the lead was there, Jonathan Majors, who I didn't know his background before, but apparently he's been in stuff, but not as the main actor.
Jonathan Majors. Are we talking about Kang the Conqueror?
I don't know. Who's Kang the Conqueror?
Jonathan Majors. Yes, like Jonathan Majors is about to be like the biggest star in the fucking Marvel universe. He's Kang.
Is he?
He was in at the end of Loki. He was revealed essentially as Kang the Conqueror, and Kang the Conqueror is basically the like the big villain of the next phase.
Oh, okay. Kang the Conqueror. Sounds like King Kong, doesn't it?
Yeah,
But
it's amazing. He's great. He's great.
he seemed really nice. But it was clearly his first lead where, um, when people start, he was enjoying talking about his craft. And, when you hear answers like, I think you're thinking too much about this, mate. I think you're reading too much into this, buddy. I think you just made a film.
So you just get on there and act. You just...
Yeah. And I mean, he was wonderful. He came around and spoke to everyone, and he was very friendly.
Was he?
But he was really, he just seemed like a nice person more than anything else. And actually, you could tell that he'd had to work. Like, he hadn't just fallen into leads. He had some pretty hard graft.
Yeah.
But there was a Q&A, and what I loved about it was the questions were all about the person asking the question.
Oh my god.
There wasn't a single bit of like, actually, I'm just interested in finding this out. It was either...
Oh no, there's no... I think this is culture like of the film press and everything. If you ever go to like a junket, it's so cringe-inducing. It is so painful. Like, there is no genuine curiosity in that room to find something out. If you ask a question, it's like if I've been in a law court. It's like you have to show off the knowledge you have to everyone and wrap it up as a question. That's how it works. Is that what kind of what it's like?
Exactly. Either that or Jonathan Majors. I'm a struggling actress who's also black, and I feel that my roles are blah blah blah. I was wondering, what advice would you have for someone like myself to get new roles in films? And, my phone number is 077, and actually I liked it because he was very good in how he answered and stuff. But I was laughing quite a lot all the way through it because I was quite drunk by this stage. and I actually had a question I quite wanted to know, but it was about the film rather than because they played all these characters, and I just wanted I was going to ask him, like, how true are these characters, and like what's the coolest thing about the characters that you found out. But it turns out they just...
You're asking a genuine question, whether you're genuinely interested in. I'm not sure that they're used to fielding those type of...
I mean, I could have just Googled it, to be fair. But I had a good segue to something to talk about running, but it almost feels too tenuous now. But when I was talking about people when they view things and they can only see it through one filter, I was going to say that's why I don't listen to other running podcasts, because it makes me realise how bad we are.
I was going to say the opposite. I can't listen to other podcasts because I just pick apart all of the bad stuff in them. I was going to make a joke on the opposite way. Yours would have been funny.
Okay. Well, we're here with Marathon Talk, an end of an era. Insane. They've been 12 years, was it?
Yeah, I know. This is our chance to catch up. How far are we gonna go to do more episodes?
I mean, maybe we should do 4 a week now. Just double down.
Did you see we got an update from Buzzsprout, who we use for our podcast hosting, and it did say that in the previous year we put out 89 episodes, which is about 150 hours of content or something.
So apologies for everyone.
Sorry, world. There was no...
If anyone's OCD and has to listen to them all, dear God. And 12 of those weren't the 12 days of Christmas.
No, exactly, they weren't. This was all genuine content as well.
But I really want to speak to Martin or to Holly at some point, and I'm sure they're gonna be a little bit messaged out with. Yes, we are. Yeah. But I think I'd like to speak to Martin as well, just because I think it'd be really interesting to get his view on it and to truly understand, just to talk us through almost from the beginning to the end, like how he felt about it, what happened that was good and bad, and because it just makes me wonder about our future. because this will end at some point, and
don't say that. People can't handle that. People can't handle it.
Should we announce?
Like when you find out, when you find out that at some point your parents are going to die, it's just it totally changes your world.
It does, yeah, true. But I guess it's been on the cards for some time since
this podcast ending or
I mean, it's been willed to end since the first.
This is just Marathon Talk has just ended by itself. Ours is actively people are going out with banners and everything trying to.
Lamar's song "If There's Any Justice in the World" I think was about ending the podcast, but there was I guess an inevitability. It was when the co-presenter left and they cut down to every other week, and from what I can tell, I mean, it must be hard for Martin, where 12th year you've lost your buddy, you're only doing everything, and there must be an element of why am I still doing these things, and I don't get the sense that they've ever made money from it either. So it's not as if they, so in some ways, most ways, just a very big loss for running. I think they were around 12 years. They've done a huge amount to promote marathon training, runners, individuals, products, everything, and set the blueprint. So it's just I think a sad day for UK runners because they have had such a positive impact.
Thinking of who the Marathon Talk audience is. I mean, I don't think that there is necessarily much of a crossover in terms of audiences, because I think with BBR we created a home for people that probably weren't served by places like Marathon Talk and everything. Who is left then? Who is left, independent? That does the same kind of thing as Marathon Talk, because I imagine, because actually there has been an influx of podcasts, but I wouldn't necessarily say there are an influx of podcasts like Marathon Talk, but there are a lot of individuals who are coaches and other things who are offering perspectives, offering serious training from different perspectives.
Well, that's the thing, because I feel that they filled the middle ground, and I think we probably as a podcast, a lot of our listeners will sometimes listen to episodes of theirs. Gary Strong was on one of theirs, for example. BBRC running coach. Yeah, he was on the penultimate. What am I on about? Gary runs strong. Gary House. Oh God, jeez. He runs strong. Gary Strong. I like Gary Strong. Sorry, but
it's Gary Strong from now on, whether you like it or not, Gary.
Yeah, and I'd imagine there'd be also a lot of Marathon Talk listeners who wouldn't necessarily want to listen to the bad stuff, but would listen to the odd episode based on who he had. But they were almost in my head like a magazine show where they had a bit of everything, brought it all together. They talked a bit about news, they talked a bit about the top end of UK and world running, and they had had interviews with quite an eclectic mix. And whereas now I don't think you get, because they've done that, there's not been anything similar. There was for a while running industry podcasts, but everyone else has more just their focus. So you've got some podcasts that are just top end British athletes. Yeah. You've got us who tend to be more long form and also more kind of interesting stories, a bit of ultra sometimes, but actually just anything that's more interesting, fascinating. And then running commentary is far more like us. You've got the Run as Well podcast, which is also the long form interview, and that's the thing. I do believe now it's most podcasts out there are either interviews or people talking about themselves and their running. So whether someone steps in and tries to take over, potentially, but it's going to be hard because there's just so it's very hard to actually be distinct, and there's so much alternative now, particularly because I don't think people are that worried about which country they listen to, because you'll probably over. We have more guests from the States than from Britain, I'd say now, just because they have more stories coming out of there, and actually it's easier to find those stories for us to invite. But I'm gonna. I don't really know Martin. I've met him a few times, but it would be good. And actually, I went to message him on Facebook, and the first message I ever sent to him was my suggestion of going on Marathon Talk, which he wasn't up for. So, but yeah, that's something I'd like to put together. I imagine if he's just finished the podcast, he doesn't want to do more podcasts straight away. But I'll hopefully we'll be in touch at some point and do that episode. I'll speak to Holly as well at the running show and get her views. But yeah, I guess this is just a message of thanks to Marathon Talk. Trailblazers led the way really globally.
Yeah.
So
it must be hard though, especially because when something like that closes down, then everyone comes out the woodwork about their opinion as to why it closes down, and it must be really hard reading that stuff. Like going, it's because of this, it's because of that. People that don't know anything about the situation as to why they've closed it down and stuff like that. That must be really hard after doing it for that amount of time.
But I imagine there'd be a huge amount of positivity.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
no one would read that.
And it depends on your mentality, because I've been reading some Golden Trail comments on YouTube just to try and get feedback, which I know you're not meant to do. But also, before I say about that, but there will be some people out there who've listened to it every week for 12 years, and that is a big loss, right? Losing it. It's a friend, really.
Well, that's why. It fills a void that was there, and although that you can have other things that come in and take that time up and stuff, there is a. It's why people subscribe to Runner's World for their entire lives. It's why why people hang on to things for such long periods of time. It's because you felt like you've
comfort.
Got with it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a comfort to it, isn't there? There's an emotional connection there that other people really struggle to break. And so it would be interesting to see what happens with that audience. Does that audience kind of disappear, or is it just then get spread among along like the other podcasts and other media? And
do they find a new home? Yeah. Well, we're trying to recently put more polls and to be more interactive in the group.
The first one went really, really well about podiatry. The first one was great. It proved. I said, we both came back to each other and said, great, polls work. What should we do for the next poll?
But have we announced the podiatry results? I can't remember.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was good. We were like, let's do another poll. So
let's just ask questions. We'll ask some questions. We'll just get your thing. I think we're quite neutral in some things. We're honest about the fact that we don't know pretty much anything, and we genuinely want to know. It seems like the situation is this, but we genuinely want to know what your thoughts are. It's amazing how sometimes people can. When we talk about looking through a prism of something, can sometimes find that a bit offensive. Yes,
and also So, firstly, apologies to anyone who it's my fault. We also forget that we've had this discussion. We're crazy busy, so then at the end of the discussion, we quickly go, right, I'll post a quick thing in Facebook. Oh God, how do I do it again? I've got to press this and do that thing. So it's all hurriedly, all in a hurry, hurriedly done. And no one who's reading what I'm writing has any of the context from the 5-10 minutes that we've been talking about it.
Yeah, the indignation meeting we've been basically having for 20 minutes that produces a piece of writing which makes perfect sense in relation to what we're talking about. And when it's put in the cold hard light of a Facebook post, may come across as probably a bit harsher than it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's very hard to give. You forget how easy it is to lose context when it comes to a question. The context of everything, particularly of dealing with a subject that potentially is quite sensitive, and seen as an attack, which it was an attack, really. But
Should we
so
tell people what we're
if you've
talking
missed this
about?
episode, yeah, I mean it was an attack in that my view was the run the month didn't make any sense, marathon edition, because you could cycle it, and also run the month was just not the greatest name, and so is our proposition was, are we being exploited as runners, and it's just not, well, is everyone just jumping on the bandwagon of we have to do a running thing and blah 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 blah.
This is in the context of us having seen loads of these things, not actually knowing much about Run the Month. Run the Month is kind of straw that broke the camel's back type thing.
Yeah.
Loads of these things that are coming out and doing it. Us also getting loads of emails from people and messages from people who are doing similar things, trying to promote their charity-based running thing, where they seem to have just tacked on the running aspect to it. And so it's that is the context by which we say we are attacking something, but we're attacking almost the idea that runners are being taken advantage of, not anything else.
But also the fact that, because in the Facebook group it was seen that we were attacking people that weren't running substantial amounts, which wasn't true in any way. It was the fact that you could wheel 26.2 miles, which to me it's not called, why call it Run the Month when you can then cycle this tiny amount cycling 26.2k over a month is a tiny amount. I understand that some people, that would still be a challenge, but I'd also suggest that that's probably not a great way to raise money. Is, hey, do you want to sponsor me for Run the Month? I'm cycling. So that was the question. These ideas that they don't have the marketing cohesion of run every day, red, or Advent challenge, or whatever it may be, the accumulator, simple concepts. So we then asked out, and the response was pretty scathing about us being self-righteous. Well, me being self-righteous, and
I don't. The thing, right? So there's some quite useful stuff coming out. Firstly, right, we found out about the event. Didn't realise that event was actually a massive event, and and it's clear that it gets a lot of people into doing it who wouldn't do it. So it's not for runners.
Yeah.
That's great, right? And that's kind of what we wanted to find out, because the question was, is this for runners, or is this something that is just not? I think you actually asked that in the question, and yes, it turns out. The other thing was that it's really interesting, because Libby commented on it as well, is that there's a lot of people who thought, for some reason, I find it really funny that people think that we're just associated with long distances. I mean, we do talk about long distance stuff like that, but the idea that we're just all about ultras, and if you don't do ultras or at least marathon, somehow we're looking down on you, which I don't think there is any evidence for anything we've ever done or said that's true, that we have ever suggested that. I find that really, really difficult to do. And if we have, then I'd love to know where we've done that or said that or put that across. But it's really funny, because Libby made a comment. She was like, "Oh, when you say stuff like that, you come across as elitist." And I was like, it's really interesting, because when having had the conversation with you, it didn't feel like we were being elitist. It felt like we were having a conversation about our runners being exploited. That's all it was.
And previously, and also, should you be able to cycle 26.2 miles in a month for a Run the Month challenge? And how does that then help you market it to people effectively to raise money? Because everything about raising money is having a good story that has cohesion, that people can understand and get behind. The more you have to explain, the less the power.
There's actually a really good, I think it's Ronnie Chen who does it, a really good Ronnie Chen sketch from, I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago, where he talks about people doing charity challenges. He goes, there's people who want to give money, and there's people who need money. And then for some reason, you have someone in the middle who raises money by walking to work, or and I'm like, why have that person in the middle? And that's not what we're talking about. But I do think that I think the interesting thing was that, well, we certainly weren't attacking charity. I mean, like, the whole idea that there was an attack on charities is bizarre, because we don't. I think it was just talking about exploitation of runners and whether there is a certain fatigue around them. But it's clear, and actually, since we talked about Run the Month, I've been served with so many ads now, because before I wasn't getting served with any ads. We talk about it, not typed it in or anything, talked about it, and now, of course, it's all over my Facebook thing. And it is interesting. The fact is, it obviously does a really, really good job at getting people in, because there are so many comments on there from people going, think we should do this, and tagging people in. So it actually is amazing. So if you haven't done any running and you want to get into it, Run the Month seems to be the one that you need to do.
Yeah, even if you want to cycle it.
Even if you want to cycle it.
Yeah, and thinking about previous times we've been seen as potentially being elitist was because we were taking the piss out of the colour run, and people thought that was because it was short, or because it's similar to running commentary when they're saying "Thank you, Marshall," and they're taking the piss out of the person who said "Thank you, Marshall" in a tone that let everyone around them know that they thought they were better than them for thanking the marshal, and they hadn't thanked the marshal. Whereas people misconstrued that as attacking marshals. And in the similar way, yeah. It's strange, isn't it? You sometimes can't talk about a topic without being seen as attacking that topic.
Yeah, and that's what I thought when I read that. I was quite surprised, to be honest, because I think, we're not, as a group, we are. I think we're quite honest, and we're quite, we are. I think we're quite open in the fact that we've got really no position to be elitist. If we were being elitist, we would be the worst elitist people, the most hypocritical elitist people. It's just the whole idea that we're elitist is fucking insane. Actually, the more I think about it, but some people, like, reading that, it's just. I'm not attacking anyone on here and doing it, because you just see things through your own prism, and it does fit back into that. Don't look up. See through prism. If you think we're attacking a charity in that, then fine. But it's clearly we are not anti-charity. Like, what fucking what?
Although I am anti bad marketing from charities. Like, that is what I'm saying. Like, come up with a cohesive
all marketing from charities then. Oh yeah, I'm elitist when it comes to stuff related to a job. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, attacking charities marketing, but you can't. It's like you are able to. It's possible to attack what a charity does. The way that a charity operates. You can attack. Like, for example, the governance of a charity or the marketing of a charity without actually attacking the cause itself. It is possible to do that. There is nuance in the world that allows you to do that. I mean, it just seems as soon as you get on fucking Facebook or somewhere else, then all of a sudden, no, if you even mention that or even try to have that discussion, straight away, like, you are. I can't believe you're attacking this charity that does good stuff.
But we're gonna mention Prostate Cancer UK. Check your bums, boys. Great charity. Yeah, we love those boys.
Check your prostate, probably. That's the.
Check your prostate. Indeed. That could be their Check Your Bums, boys. I mean, that is good. It would be like the Hello Boys, yes, but with your bum there. Check your bums, boys. That would work, right?
So saying to them basically, oh yeah, we don't think your marketing's good on this one, but we've got an alternative.
Especially if
that one's for free.
Her hits of Eva, whatever her name was also doing it. I would check my bum. Well, do betters. This is probably the first episode we've had the opportunity for some marathon talk listeners to come and think, yeah, okay, maybe not for me.
Runner's World.
But we have got no polls to put in the group this week. We will be continuing that in the future, though. And I have many more stories to talk about.
What do you find most offensive? And they can put their own thing. Like, if the mention of what gets you angry in any context, that would be a good one.
Oh, that's a really good one. Yes. Are there some subjects that you think, wait, have they? Because we're all guilty of, we have to double check and double read things and think, are they actually, oh no, it's fine, they're on our side. Like, what are the subjects for you that really get you going? Well, thanks for listening, guys. We have many guests coming up. I'm going to be away for 3 weeks, and we haven't, Jody and I haven't talked what we're doing yet about that, so that's going to be interesting.
Well, I was away for 3 weeks when I had COVID, and we didn't have to talk about that. You just took over brilliantly, and let's see if I do as good a job.
Yeah, and in my defence, we only booked this about 2 days ago, so I'm off to South America. Woo! But if there's any guests you'd like us to interview, then please email me, message me, david@badboyrunner.com, or post in the Instagram. Just message me that. If you want to ask questions of future guests, follow us on Instagram, and we ask them directly from there. We've got some great interviews coming up with people like Jim Walmsley, and actually that interview was ridiculously good. I didn't really, wow.
Got raw in parts unexpectedly.
Yes, and I feel really bad because I wasn't expecting it. It was kind of joking, and then sort of like, oh Christ, it's gone in this direction. Oh no, not oh no, but like, oh fuck, am I being insensitive here? Oh, anyway, that is to look forward to. So we will see you at the Run Show.
And if you want to chip in on a poll and get offended at something, you can do so in the Facebook group. All you need to do is type in Bad Boy Running Podcast. Answer 3 questions, we'll let you into the group, and you can answer poll questions away. If you want to buy merch,
the poll is still in there.
The poll is still in there, so there is still an opportunity to get offended by something in that poll. We'll be putting more polls to get offended by shortly. If you want to buy merch, you can do so at store.badboyrunning.com. We're going to have loads of merch at the running show as well, including the mugs. So jump along, don't get there, and you won't have to pay any postage, which will be great.
And you'll be able to see Coach Gary Strong. Gary Strong.
Gary.
So we'll see you there, guys. Thanks for listening.
Please
rate and review, and we'll see you next time.